and gentlemen, we have a very special guest today. She's a daughter, she's a wife, she's a mother. She's also have been a successful engineer in the automotive industry. She currently sits in the Michigan House of Representatives representing 41st District, which is Troy and Clawson. Please welcome our very own Padma Kuppa.
Thank you so much for having me here, Ruby. It's an honor to be on this show.
So you ran election last year in 2018. You were sworn in January 5th, 2019.
January 9th.
January 9th. How was it like?
So actually January 5th was the in-district swearing in, but actually this opening session was January 9th.
So your term began
January 9th. This is the 100th session of the Michigan Legislature.
Right.
We have 52 Democrats, 58 Republicans on the House side, and it is absolutely a huge honor and a huge responsibility to represent the residents and the constituents in the 41st District.
Right.
Really fortunate to be able to do
it's
this.
It's the 100th legislation,
yes.
right? What a mark.
Yeah, yeah.
So your term will be for 2 years.
It will be until 2020, and then I'm up for re-election again.
Wow. So how your experience had been so far in the House? I know it's very short duration since January.
Sure. It's been less than 2 months. It's been very interesting because as an engineer, I never thought that I would run for office. So I really didn't pay a lot of attention to legislative procedures. I knew what I was advocating on as a person in the community. I've always been advocating on issues that are relevant to our community, whether it's going to Lansing to talk to our state representative, Marty Nolenberg, way back when my children were in elementary school, to talk about the cuts to school funding that they started way back many years ago, and always had wanted to speak out on issues that were important so that our budgets reflect our priorities. But now I'm the one in the seat listening to constituents' concerns, and I really want to hear them. And so I've been holding office hours in the district. I started out at the Blair Memorial Library in Clawson, and then I have also got office hours at the Troy Public Library. And if any constituent wants to meet with me, all they have to do is call my office or send me an email. The information is available on our website. But really the goal for me is to represent the community and our values. I know there are people who voted for me, people who didn't vote for me, but I think that at the end of the day, we all want certain things. We want good education for our children. We want good environment. We have the Great Lakes. We want to cherish them. And we also have needs for infrastructure. We want to make sure that we protect our infrastructure. So how we get there, we're going to discuss. I'll be discussing with the other 109 state legislators, as well as the governor and the Senate. And so that's how we will have to come together, and that's kind of why I ran.
Right. So Padma, it's really great to know that you're available hands-on with your constituents. So just reading your profile, I came across something, and that kind of, complements what you just said. You literally knocked on 7,000 doors, going door to door, representing yourself, who you are and what you're running for. And you came across one young lady named Andrea, she went to school with your daughter.
Yes.
Right? How was it like?
So when I started this campaign, I had never wanted to run for office. Because politics was about one person winning, one person losing. I always like win-win situations.
Right.
But when I started knocking on doors, it was really easy because I've worked so many years in the community in different community organizations, volunteering in schools where my kids were going to, whether it was elementary or middle school or high school, I volunteered. And I knocked on Andrea's door, not expecting to see her there. And then she was there, and she was so excited that I was running for office.
Yeah.
And so every area that I went into, every neighborhood that I went into, it was really almost like reliving all the years that I've lived in Troy, meeting people who knew me from the volunteerism that I've done over the last 20 years.
And Andrea has given a beautiful testimonial on her website stating how great she is. So please go watch it. another thing to add, there were about 37,000 homes that her supporters went on knocking door to door and discussing about her proposition in the Michigan House of Representatives. So why did you run for the House?
So I will say this, as I said before, I really never wanted to run for office. I was just about doing good in the community, helping it thrive by volunteering, building community organizations, volunteering for different events and activities. But I ran because in 2017, I was in a job that, many of us are not always satisfied in our jobs. We don't always think about changing them. Yeah. But I was thinking about what should I do next. I knew that I needed to find something that fit my passion for community service. And every day as I came home and I watched the confirmation hearings of Secretary of Education, I was very disappointed that we could not find someone better to lead public education at the national level.
Right.
And I realized that while we can always look at what's going on at the national level, where we can make real change is at the state level, at the regional level, at the local level. My father always said all politics is local. And so I decided that I was going to pound the pavement and knock on doors of neighbors and say, let me represent you. I will be a good representative for our community. I will bring people together because that's what I've done for the last 20 years. Try to find ways to build up the organizations that I've been part of, build up the community strengths. And so I wanted to be able to do that. And so over the course of the next year, I figured out what I needed to do to run for office, put myself in a situation that if I needed to, I could quit my job. And all I did was raise money and knock doors and go take my message to the community and say, please put your trust in me. I would be honored to be your representative in Lansing.
Oh, great. In your campaign, and you briefly mentioned earlier, just a few minutes ago, that your top priorities would be fixing the infrastructure, protecting the environment, and public education. So narrowing down to public education, what bills can we see that would be introduced during your term, or what steps would you be taking to improve the public education?
So first, our budgets should reflect our priorities. I know very strongly that many in the Troy and Clawson community value education, and they see it as a way to achieve the American dream. And so having good public schools is really critical. Our budget at the state level has to reflect those priorities of our communities, where public education for all children is equitable and allows them to achieve their fullest potential. And that's why I like organizations like DES, because that is exactly what they're about as well.
Right. So one of your interviews, you said educational opportunities are the foundational part of economic growth. DES is a firm believer of that, and we fully support that statement. DES is a nonprofit organization, as many viewers know as well. We help students after school, and we tutor them in certain subjects to help them grow. However, because of limited resources such as like grants and fundings, we would like to help students on a larger scale, but we haven't been able to. Are there any grants available for nonprofits like DES?
So there's two sources. There's government funding, and then there's granting organizations that provide funds. So those nonprofits, I don't currently have access to any of their funds. You'd have to see which are the organizations that provide nonprofits that provide funding for education to other nonprofits. I would say, though, in the government, we will know this coming week in March, the first week of March, the governor will be releasing her budget and what her priorities are. Now, that budget will be hashed out between the two chambers of the legislature and also the governor's office, the executive office. So based on that, we will know how much money is not only in public education, but also available for people to apply for grants. So the different departments that are within the government that would have, what resources will they have that is at their discretion to give. So My focus right now, though, is very much on making sure public education is equitably funded. Last year, during Lame Duck, $1.2 billion of our taxpayer money was taken away from public education and given to fix the roads. We cannot continue to rob Peter to pay Paul. We have to come up with better revenue sources. Right. When the budget comes out, we'll have a much better picture of what we will have available for organizations like DES.
We would love to see, fundings and grants available for such nonprofits so we can help students, further their goals, and they're more confident when they're sitting for SATs or ACTs. Well, at last, do you have any message for your constituents?
Sure, I do. First, go to the website housedems.com/Kuppa. You will find when my office hours are. You will find what legislation I'm introducing. You asked earlier, what legislation am I introducing? What policies will I push? I think a lot of my goals are not to add more and more regulations and more policies, but to really focus on local control. I'm on a committee called Local Government and Municipal Finance, and that's one of the things that I will be talking about. And then I'm on the Energy Committee, so I'll be talking about what can we do in the energy sector to make fuels more efficient, to make sure that we have more clean energy practices, that policy does support that kind of consciousness of the environment. But also you will find that I have a town hall on March 11th. At the Troy Community Center. We are bringing together a panel of experts from a foundation, Tanya Allen, she's with the Skillman Foundation, Rob Fowler from the Small Business Administration of Michigan. He's going to be talking about the needs of small business and what we need to do to educate our children so that they can be part of small business and maybe even start small businesses of their own. We'll have Doug Maybeck from Barton Mallow. He's the vice president of Barton Mallow, which deals with a lot of the infrastructure challenges that our state faces in terms of school buildings needing improvements, because we know that there are schools and buildings in our state that need repair. And we'll have a teacher of the year from Birmingham Covington Middle School's Rick Joseph. And so come listen to them, come ask them questions, because our panel of experts will be there to give us insight into what we need to do to face the 21st century, to educate our children so that they are successful, so that we have a strong economy and a strong state.
Yes, please come on March 11th to her town hall, and maybe you'll get more information on, her policies and her legislation she'll be introducing. Well, thank you so much, Representative. It was such a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So what do you think about DES?
The Detroit Education Society serves a very critical need in our community. You know that there's a huge equity gap and educational achievement gap, and there are a lot of reasons why. Part of it is funding, but part of it also resources, the wraparound services that a child needs when they're getting educated. My children are fortunate, as are many in the Indian community, because they have parents who are either scientists or engineers or doctors who might be able to provide them things both monetarily and also just like I was able to help my kids with their math homework. I had a passion for reading, and so I was able to instill that. If a child doesn't have a parent who has the time and the resources, organizations like DES provide those support services that are so critical to a student's success. And that's why they need to be supported.
Great.